Well, welcome. I want to welcome all of you for coming here, especially you folks who have volunteered your time and your hearts to be a part of our adult sibling panel. I'm going to start off with some questions that I will ask, and then we'll pause and we'll let the audience ask questions that they may have, and then I'll probably wrap up with a few things, and then we'll go on our way. Okay? So I think I will start right here at this end with you, Daniel. If you could please tell us a little bit about yourself, your name, your age, where you work, maybe what you like to do for fun.
Sure. Well, my name is Daniel Allen Jones, and I'm 28 years old. I manage a media company and do video production. I actually ran out to my car to go see if I had my camera and tripod and stuff. I don't have it with me this time.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you for thinking.
Well, sure, yeah. I love to travel. I do investigative journal work. I go to different places and hold conferences and give lectures. I love to be able to travel and meet people that are doing community work, and I'm really glad to be able to be here and connect with all of you. So,
awesome.
And I also am a musician. I play in different ensembles and do gigs and shows around the area as well.
Oh, okay. Well, good.
I actually had
What's your band's
a practice every Thursday at this time that I took off to be able to come here and do this. But I play in a few different groups. The one that I do tonight is called the Maxwell Hall Jazz Ensemble. It's like a big band with like 20 different musicians and horn players and stuff. So I play drums. So.
Did you bring your cards?
I don't have any with me, but
okay.
yeah.
Morgan, can you tell us who you are, what you do, what you do for work, your age, and make it sound exciting, and what you like to do for fun?
My name's Morgan Nowak. I teach at North Crowley 9th grade, and I teach in the FA classroom. I love anything to do with the ocean. I just actually came back from like a week-long trip to Florida like 2 days ago. So I'm always itching to get back over there. I grew up in Florida, so this is new for me. And for fun, well, I don't know about fun. I'm getting my master's right now, so that's like all I do for fun. So I'm really bored right now.
And what's your master's going to be in?
Visual impairment. So I can teach of mind.
That's great. Kirsten?
My name is Kirsten Manning. I am 25 years old. I actually work at S.H. Crowley Intermediate School. I'm a 5th grade math teacher there. What I do for fun, let's see. Nothing really. I hang out, well, I'm recently married, so
That's
husband
fun.
and I are, well, I would say enjoying the honeymoon phase, but we've had a lot going on as far as family stuff and everything. But I have a niece on the way as well, so I'm getting excited for that. I really don't do anything for fun. We hang out with our dogs. We go to the movies.
It's fun.
Yeah, hang out with our families. We're big family people, so.
Thank you. Carolyn?
I'm Caroline Bell, and I'm the senior member of the group here. I'm about to enter into the age of Medicare, so
Okay.
that tells
That's
you.
good enough. That's close enough.
And I am a retired educator. I taught for 36 years, and started in Fort Worth ISD and ended up in Crowley ISD at Oakmont Elementary. And apparently we just missed each other at Oakmont and taught kindergarten. In fact, I came to Oakmont to start the ESL program, English as a Second Language program there at Oakmont, and ended up doing a co-teach where another special ed teacher and I were teaching together. So we had about 28 kids or so, and for fun, well, right now my knee's not doing too well. I love to hike and be outside and just enjoy nature wherever I can go. So.
Okay, Aaron?
I'm Aaron Smith. I'm 43. Had to think about that for a second. I work at Crowley High. I work in life skills, so I have severe and profoundly mentally impaired individuals. I have to think because we've changed the terminology, which I'm glad about. What do I do for fun? I used to turn wood and other kind of stuff, but a 2-year-old son has changed all that. So normally I come home and he wants to go for a walk or ride a bike. He has a little tricycle, so we rode down the street. He went to 2 houses tonight. Luckily we have a neighbor that we're good friends with, so I had to take the trike back there. Then he wanted to walk to the street sign, and there's my trike. I'm like, yes, Kenneth, we'll go to your trike and we will take it home. Because last time I didn't think about that. I carried it down to the stop sign and carried it back, and I'm like, I'm never doing that again.
We live and learn, don't we?
So do you think that your family did a great job in trying to balance that out, like take time out with you, or could they have maybe coordinated a little bit better, or what do you think for, me?
Anybody want to take that?
I'll just share a little bit. Of course, I think that things could always be better, with finances and resources. I was actually just a week under a year after my brother, so we were always close. There wasn't really a difference, whereas let's say we have another younger sister who's 10 years younger than we are. I know that would really affect someone like her more than the difference in age between my brother and I. And so I don't know that it would have really affected myself maybe as much as someone else here on the panel, but I think that with the conditions we had, it's difficult to really think about how things could have been, and I'm just grateful for what we had while we got to experience our upbringing. So there wasn't really any, in my experience, something that brought my attention to the difference between how he got any kind of special treatment versus myself or something like that. So not necessarily as much for myself. So
one thing I think, looking back, I was thinking about that. I think the biggest difference I remember is the difference in discipline. I mean, I would have done something, I'm not sure if because I'm the oldest and he's the youngest, or if it's because of the disability. I mean, I would have got a pop for some of and I did get pops for some of the stuff that I pulled. Because he didn't understand, it's like, okay, you can't take away this, you can't give him a spanking. So there was that always, growing up, it's like, he got it, you feel like he got the special privilege because he couldn't get disciplined. It's like, okay, he has no pain tolerance, so you could just spank him forever and he's not going to cry, he's not going to, and he doesn't understand, so you can't take away stuff. It's like,
Which
so
you understand now, but
I
as a
understand
kid,
now.
you probably
As a
right.
kid, it was one of those things that's like,
Yeah.
sometimes you didn't, maybe looking back, there was that kind of sibling rivalry where I would try to be a little rougher to him than I should have been, because I'm like, okay, they're not going to discipline him, so
You're gonna take
a little bit. It's like,
that's
not that I
from a
would
child.
spank him or anything,
Yeah.
but it's like, okay, just try to say, okay, you don't, how do I put this? I wasn't the parent, but sometimes if dad would go out and say, he had to work out of town, you're the man of the house, so it's like, okay, yes. Not that I would punish him, but it's like, okay, you finally got the idea, like, okay, I knew I wouldn't get away with it, but he did, so there was maybe, when mom wasn't looking, the elbow jab or something, but he's so tough, he started wrestling me, and I'm the one turning blue in the face, because he'd get me in headlock, and I'm like, and he still does it, he'll get me in headlock or give me a Dutch rub, and I'm like, uncle, and he just doesn't get it. It's like, okay, enough.
I think the point you make, though, is probably a very, very common, that frustration that my special needs sibling doesn't get punished the way I do, and that's not fair from a kid's point of view. So yeah, and I think that's probably what you're like, yeah.
Can I?
Yeah, go ahead, Morgan.
Okay, so I'm gonna piggyback off you and your, well, I'm just gonna be honest and frank, like, sometimes it really, really sucked. Like, and I'm just gonna be honest, and it wasn't great, and it wasn't roses all the time, but my parents did the best that they could. And thinking back now, I don't have children now, and my dad was in the military, and I'm like, oh my God, I can't even handle my dogs. Like, I don't even know, like, my mom was doing this. So, but I think that what my parents could have done differently would have been provided a little bit more stability for myself, because it was just so chaotic all the time that I felt that I needed to bring home the stability. So I brought home good grades. I brought home the best behavior.
This is my life.
I brought home all the things they needed because they couldn't, it was just out of their hands, at that point. So I wish that someone would have told me, you don't have to. No one ever did, though. I don't think they ever thought about it, like they didn't think, hey, you don't have to be perfect all the time. I just did it myself.
And it stresses you out when you're not perfect.
Exactly.
Yes.
And then also with the maternal instinct, and I don't think that anyone ever sat me down and said, you have to act like a mom to Matt, even at school. Like, you have to watch him in the cafeteria. You have to go help when he's being bad in class. Like, I just did it. But then again, no one ever told me I didn't have to. And so it's just that way, and I just fit into that role, and I don't think that my parents really recognized it, and I don't even think I recognized it until it was pointed out at that training that, yeah, I was being perfect, until my senior year of high school, but
Yeah.
We won't get into
it's
that.
a different story.
To piggyback
Yeah.
off of that, just real quick, that's like my life in a nutshell, but I was a middle child too, so, my sister and mom were really close. My baby brother has a disability as well as, the baby of the family, and I felt the same way. I had to be the stability of the family, and everything was always so chaotic. Late all the time, canceling plans all the time. And it was honestly embarrassing a lot of times too. My friends' parents were on time and always at things, and always, my parents are trying to take care of my brother, cursing in school and bringing tequila to school, or, and they're dealing with that, and they don't make it to my things. And so, and not that my parents were in the wrong at all, because my parents also got married at 19 out of high school and had us at 21 and 23, and they were, and they did amazing now I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm 25 and I couldn't imagine having 3 kids, one with a disability like he has right now. They did amazing, and always working, and always did the best they could. But kind of like she said, like, telling your kids, like, you don't have to be, I always felt like I had to be perfect and be the stability, and be embarrassed that there wasn't stability in my home. And my friends didn't always have that compassion because they didn't live with that at home. They didn't live with a child with disabilities, and I probably wouldn't have had that compassion had I not grown up with it.
Mm-hmm.
And so they didn't understand that, and it was just honestly kind of, till this day as an adult, dealing with my in-laws and stuff, trying to make plans with my family is like non-existent. You cannot plan anything. We tried to go to my in-laws on Sunday, and we ended up in the hospital and calling an ambulance from their house. There's no stability, and now it's kind of like, oh, this is the normal, and it's fine. It's just not everybody has that compassion, and you do always feel like you have to be perfect. And so as a parent, I would say they did the best that they could. The thing I wish they would have done a little bit better was paid more attention to, I went to the state track meet, and that was one of my things. Like, I'm like always in everything trying to get their attention, and they missed my state track meet because they're trying to get my brother in the car, and so just being more aware, and they couldn't help that. It's just being more aware of that and trying to, okay, you stay home with Dylan and I'll go to her track meet, just trying to spend their time a little more, because sometimes being a parent in that situation and being a sibling in that situation, that's all you care about, and it's understandable, but just maybe paying more attention to those things would have benefited a lot. But it made me the person that I am. I'm strong-headed, I'm independent, and now my mom's like, wants to be my best friend and stuff, and we are, but it's like, you weren't that way when I was little. She wants to hug and love on me, and I'm like, but Mom, you didn't hold, on my wedding day, she's trying to hold my hand, and I'm just like, that's weird, because she wasn't affectionate to me as a child. She was to my brother, but not to me, and so she gets upset, and I'm like, I'm really sorry, I'm not trying to hurt your feelings, that's just not how how I was raised, you know, and so maybe just being more aware of those things.
And not to scare you, I'm sure.
Just a quick comment
Yeah.
on that I thought of was all the things maybe that I or people in this situation can take for granted, whereas let's say, you know, in my case, my brother doesn't drive, you know, he's not able to operate a vehicle, but, you know, growing up, my parents helped me get a car, and at the time I didn't think anything of it, but, you know, looking back, I just, you know, get some kind of feeling of, well, you know, they were very considerate of that for me, whereas, you know, obviously for him it wasn't something that he could do, but there is that kind of part that weighs in later on when I look back and see all the opportunities maybe that I had that he wasn't able to do in a way that, you know, people might expect, you know, that because they have special needs they're getting all the attention. But I look back and see all the wonderful opportunities that my parents did for me that maybe he wasn't able to really have any part in, and so that kind of, you know, opened my mind up to all the things that I can help to try to provide and do and be more considerate of for him. So.
Thank you. Thank you for that question. That was a good question. Someone else have a question? Something you'd like to ask them?
No, we're getting earful.
Well, I have two follow-up ones, which we really kind of segued into. You pretty much asked that. And one of the questions I had prepared was that looking back with regards to your needs and the needs of your family, is there something that your parents did especially well? You've kind of touched on that, but something that you're like, and you've kind of touched on, you know they were doing the best they could, but if you look back, is there something you can say, wow, they did this and this was so helpful? Caroline?
One thing that, it's interesting hearing you two talk. I kind of had that sense of being, providing some stability to the family. But it seemed like Mom and Dad, and they are now deceased, so it's just Catherine and me. But they always wanted to include Catherine. That was something that they always wanted to do, and she went on vacations with us, and she's probably been to Hawaii more than some people in this room. So, you know, they always wanted to include her. And one thing that I wasn't completely aware of, but I've seen the benefits of it, was mom and dad in particular, being involved in particularly the MHMR process. And I wasn't even aware, when I was talking about those two fundings, the ICF and the HCS, I wasn't even aware that they had signed her up for that, and she basically was on that list for HCS for at least 10 years. So
Before
they were
ever getting
it, and even
so they
before I
were
even
planning
knew it.
ahead without
Yes.
you even knowing, and you're
Exactly.
grateful at this point that they, yeah.
So that they were always vigilant on that, and so that's something that I appreciated, and it's made a difference in my life, and of course Catherine's too.
Yeah.
So,
I have a quick one. My parents just always, no matter the disability, no matter the lack of disability, just instilled in us family is number one. And so we've always leaned on each other. Again, I think experiences make you the person that you are. And so no matter what thing we've been hit with, they've always taught us, well, you know, it's God's plan. Let's look forward. Let's try to do the best we can. And so at the end of the day, I can have the worst day ever, and I know my family's there for me and my faith's there for me, and I can get through anything in this entire world. And so that's something they did really well, is regardless of who you are, your disability, you know, we're here. We got each other. There's nothing that can bring us down. So
That's great. LaToya, do you want to?
I had two questions. Like, if your immediate family was not very supportive, did your parents make sure that you all have a support network? And also, how did you work with friends? Because I have a 6-year-old and a 9-year-old. So the 6-year-old is starting to have friends, you know, come over, and my 9-year-old is kind of like, I don't really care, not paying attention. But when they want to go outside, my 9-year-old is trying to follow me, and so friends are like, okay, that's our friend, that's not our friend. My 9-year-old doesn't care, but then I'm trying to tell my 6-year-old, okay, like, he's not going, I'm gonna make sure, but we can't let other people talk to him like that. So like that fine point of like, okay, you can still have your life. You don't have to, defend him, but that's still your brother. Like they make without being
you
too
get
much.
to a point where
like
that's your sibling and you will defend them. You can pick on them, but nobody else can.
Yeah.
I promise
Yeah.
you get to that point.
Oh.
And my friends are my brother's friends. Like I've had my 4 college roommates have been up there to visit him in the hospital this week. My guy friends in college that were in fraternities, they made him a special honorary member of their fraternity, and he's a honorary member of their fraternity. I mean, your friends become their friends, and it may not as a young age sink in that way, but it will as they grow up. So that's the experience that I've had.
And so the older one is the special needs. And that's a difference too. I think almost all of us was your.
Well,
we were the oldest.
Mine's younger.
Okay.
Yeah.
Older.
So
Yeah.
We
Mine
were
was
the older one.
just a year older, but growing up
Yeah.
together and being in a neighborhood where I had the opportunity to have several friends on the street, I mean, everyone knew my brother. It wasn't like he was set aside or set apart. He was just always included in the way that he could be. But I think the context of childhood and friendship at that point just undergoes so many changes into adolescence. Then when you become adult, like I would say, Matthew lost virtually anyone he could have been considered being a friend with after he left high school, just because, as most of us do, unless you really stay in touch with people from school, that basis for communication, ceases to exist. And so what I found was in reintegrating back into that family setting and being more involved with him, that if I don't do anything, he's not going to have an outlet for any kind of social experience. So like I mentioned earlier, start bringing him to anything that I do, so he gets to really experience something in a way that all the people that I'm connecting with really start to familiarize themselves with him, and they just grow from there, and they're friends. And so it's something that I think has to be, there has to be a catalyst if there's not anything else happening. After they're a child, it's one thing, but as they get older, unless you really have that supportive network, or like you're saying, something that really can help bring them into a more tight-knit community, it's not easy for them to have that kind of relationship on their own, much less unless they have someone really bringing that connection forward. And so I think it's really important that they're just involved, whatever that is, whether it's, the kids are in the room playing, if they're just having a good time, and he or she can just be observant. That's one thing I found is my brother, he's an observer. He might not interact as much, but he likes to do, his interaction is observing, is taking part in his own way. And I think that's the best way to go about it, is just giving them and appreciating them in a way that everyone can really just acknowledge their presence, and have them, the special needs person, bring something in a way that isn't necessarily that they're having to be so interactive as all the other friends are, but that they're just acknowledged and their presence is welcome. And I think that's one of the best things that we can do.
That's super hopeful. I'm thinking though, at the age of 6 and 9, very few siblings, typical or otherwise, are going to get along on a regular basis. That's the exception. And I think sometimes we want our 6-year-old to get it. He doesn't operate the way you do, so be more compassionate maybe. And maybe they just need that sibling rivalry sometimes, which will make you crazy. Probably.
No, they get along good. It's just they get along good.
And when
It's just
there's
that
friends that come
when
into
his
the
friends come
picture.
along, it's kind of like he just drops him and ignores
Oh.
him, or the other friend. I have to kind of teach other people's kids like how to be around, and so he'll just kind of let things slide. Where I'm like, no, little boy, you need to.
I think a lot of that comes with maturity as well.
Yeah, because he is 6. But what, you were going to say something?
My mom and dad were really good about, I never really had to beg to go to another friend's house.
Right.
So like they knew it was difficult with Matt being there, and it was the same. My friends were Matt's friends. He was like more popular than I was probably, but I just never really had to beg. They just kind of knew like they're not gonna, at some point, like, I don't want to have to explain, or I don't want to have to, like,
Right.
you know, yes, I'll share with you, but, like, I don't want to, but it's fine. I don't want to deal with it. So, I don't know. My parents were just really good about me saying, hey, you know, probably more than they should
And
have.
that's the thing.
But they were just really good about
Letting
saying,
you go to your friend's house more than
So
them
let
coming to
let
yours,
your other
maybe.
child have their time with their friends and be away from it all, you know, but also instill in your child and their friends, be compassionate. You know, that they are different. They're, you know, that's great. But also make sure that you let the other sibling have their time away, because they need that away time, especially.
See, my son's friends, they want to come to our house, like, 'cause our house is a fun house.
Yeah.
So I'm like, go over their house, and then they'll go over there, and then they'll come back and say, we want to come to your house. And I'm like,
So being so fun.
You're doing something. You're doing something.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
Did anybody else want to share something that you thought, yeah, I'm just so glad my parents did that. That was really good.
I think
I'm
my
sure
parents-
there's more,
Yeah.
but because then my next question is going to be: is there something looking back now that you wish they would have done differently? And we've touched on a little bit of that. But anybody that hasn't shared, can you look back and say, I really wish they would have, or any thoughts on that? Not to throw your parents under the bus.
I'm not sure if it's my brother's disability or my dad was constantly working construction, so it's, okay, you pick up and move, you pick up and move, you pick up and move.
Okay.
So it became, family was tight, I mean, and so that was one of the things that was instilled in us is family's God's priority, family's priority, and everything else isn't. So that was the good thing that we learned growing up. And I mean, my brother's my best man at my wedding. When I got married, I didn't know this because my brother-in-law at the time, he's a minister, and everyone, because family's important, my brother's my best man. So we didn't do the bachelor party, we didn't do all that kind of stuff. We went bowling and we had pizza. That was my bachelor party with my family, brother. But I mean, Paul talks to me and he says, your brother's not going to be able to sign. I guess there's parts that the brother-in-law has to sign. He says, I'll sign it. But he, even though he's from Michigan, he knew my love for my brother, and he's like, I'm not going to embarrass him or you. Let me step in and do what has to be done legally, so that, but I never knew that until you get to that point. And talking about legal, my dad drilled in my sister and me. And I was looking at this question, knowing number 4, the crystal ball, what's going to happen? And I mean, we were drilled almost to the point of military. You're going to take care of your brother. You're going to take care of your brother. My sister, when she got married, and then she had a daughter, so she kind of divorced herself from the family. And so I'm working with my dad because one of the first projects we had to do was redo a fence line. And I told my dad, I said, what I told you when I was a boy still stands. And he said, and so then,
Meaning
So you
what you,
felt obligated.
meaning that
I will.
someday I would
step up.
I would step up, I would
Yeah.
take care of my brother. And even when I proposed to my wife, we were going to the same church. It took my brother a while. Elizabeth would say, hi Matthew, hi Matthew. But until she came to our house and he made that connection, this is my fiance. So then he made the connection, but it was, and I told her, I said, you understand that it's a package deal. You have to understand right now, before we go any further, it's a package deal. And she understood that. So I told my dad, I said, Dad, it's still valid. I said, I know you're concerned because my sister won't have anything to do with Matthew. I said, I'm not that way. And he looked at me, and about that time Elizabeth comes out, because it's summer, and she brings lemonade, and I said, if you don't believe me, ask her. And he said, I want to, and he didn't say, what is your plans, but he came out in such a way to give her honor and me honor, and he said, what's your plans with Matthew? She said, he's part of the family. And my dad broke down. I'm breaking down. So it was one of those things that I put and most of us put our lives on hold for our families, I hear. But it was that thing that we included him, and so we understood, here's our responsibility. So that learning of responsibility early, like you were saying, get the good grades, be the track star, we learned that. And I think that was the biggest thing, especially in this day and time where there is none.
Thank you.
So your siblings right now might fight, but someday your sibling will learn that even though he's the younger one will probably have to take care of the older one. And it will take time. I don't drill it in like like my dad did. But he will learn, and maybe like my situation, he'll be the best man at his brother's wedding. He'll do those things. So don't limit anybody. Don't limit the special needs individual. Don't limit the normal person in the family. They're going to grow up and they're going to take on the responsibility because they will love the person.
Yes. I mean, I look at some of my friends that I grew up with, and I love them to death, but some of them are so oblivious to what's going on out there, to the bad things that are out there, and they tell me all the time, they're like, what in the, like, I could not live if I were, they're like, how do you go through this? And I'm like, it is what it is. It's normal. I've been raised this way to just push on and keep going. And, and they're like, what? They've just never been through the heartache and the things that we've been through. And so again, I would never wish that on my kids, but at the same time, I'm like, without those experiences, who are my kids going to be? And so that worries me a lot as well.
Any other questions for our panel here?
I think they did a really good job. I guess my comment is, in back of my mind, I really don't want my kids to have to take care of him, even though that's a possibility.
I think that's a very
and I don't raise them
I don't
to take
think
care.
that's beautiful, Erin, that you have that heart for
Yeah.
that. But I think a lot of times, is that fair? No,
Yeah.
you
Your
as a
kids
parent didn't get to choose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it took a lot of processing, I'm sure, to go through that. But I think,
Your
I
kids
think
will naturally grow up to, it's a no-brainer. Without my parents having to, pound it into me, or even though, and my parents, I honestly don't think have ever said if anything happens to us, and again, with my brother-in-law passing, like, we've thought about these things, what would happen to, but my brother's about to have to go on dialysis, and the best place for him to be is at UT Southwestern. I'm like, all right. My husband and I live here, and my parents live in West Texas. I'm like, we're taking him, let's go. It's just natural. You grow up with it.
And it may not be
Like
for
that.
every
It
sibling.
gives us
And
it gives us
doesn't
hope
have to be.
because my daughter she's 10, she's a 5th grader, and her life is all about her, and she doesn't, if a little brother a year younger is pesky, then he is super annoying because he's different and embarrassing and
She won't always feel that way.
inconvenient.
Mhm.
And we watch her and we're like, oh.
Just keep
We're just-
encouraging her to embrace the difference. And
Yeah.
one day you will be, just tell her, one day you will understand. These kids don't understand, but you're going to understand. And it's going to force her to grow up quickly, which is okay.
Mhm.
A lot of times
Mhm.
she's going to be headstrong. Just keep encouraging her the way you are. It's okay to be different. Again, give her that time to herself or to her friends.
Mhm.
Give her that away time. I think we all agree, because we all need that.
Yeah.
But
Maybe that's her way of just being like, well, I want my own person, and I want my own attention, and
Her way of coping.
Right,
Her
so that
way
might
of
be
getting what
it,
she
and
wants. Needs.
I promise, I feel like my mother would probably be saying the same thing about 10-year-old me too.
yes.
But
and like I said, like, I can't tell you, I grew up we were not dealt the best hand as far as not just my brother, but my Mimi was also killed in a car accident. We've just gone through stuff and stuff and stuff over and over, and without that foundation, we wouldn't have been able to get through a lot of that stuff. But I look back and I kid you not, I mean, and it was right before my brother-in-law was killed, but I was like, thank you, God. Like, this is what we may have struggled getting here, and it may have been a hard battle, and I know we still have roads ahead of us that are, you know, rocky and things like that, but I'm like, wow, like, the man that I married, I mean, it made me, I didn't date till my husband. Like, I was like, I know who I want, I know who I'm after, he's got to accept my brother.
Yeah.
That is a package deal. I mean, he's got to be ready to accept him. He's got to be, you know, and I'm so happy where I ended up, where I'm at, where, you know, with my brother, and even though, you know, I mean, it's just, your child will look back one day and be like, wow, the struggle was for something. Like, this was for something. And so, again, 5th grade me, my mom would have been like, no, she was all about herself, and she hated her brother, like, but it will get better. Just keep instilling in your child, you know, we're different for a reason. We're all not dealt the same hands. It's not fair. It's not.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't ask for this. Y'all didn't ask for this, you know, but it is what it is, and we'll take it as it comes, so.
Just a quick comment on that. I think the transition, when you're young, it's easy to see it as having a sibling or, you know, as someone you're close to, as it being an inconvenience for your, like you're saying, your own personal life.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the transformation from the state of inconvenience to it being a blessing is really is what it's all about. And I think that given the right environment, and if it's not really you know, drilled into you, you have to do this, you have to do this. If it's more just made aware, like, you know, I feel on a side note that while the question says, you know, what do you think will happen once your parents are gone? I think that the situation would be much different. In my case, anyway, I often think about how my brother would be off if I wasn't there, because I feel like being the primary caretaker now, I'm more concerned about myself and my involvement with my brother. But I think it's really important that for a sibling coming through childhood and getting into a point where they're not forcefully, you know, dealt this situation, you have to take care of this other person. It's, you're obligated, and I think that's really daunting of a task for anyone to have to go through, whether it's the parent or the children. And I think that if, like I said, just given the right circumstances, if someone comes through the phase of inconvenience to, wow, what a blessing it is, I can not just know this person, but be, you know, have them in my family and do what I can to be involved with them and help see them through life in whatever ways. And so I think that that's an important thing to deal with, whether they're the caretaker or not, as long as they're acknowledging that this person is you know, is a part of their life, and that, you know, they're worthwhile in some way. And I think that that's, in my view, one of the biggest things I've dealt with going through, you know, trying to have a personal life and everything. And not that it's not existent. I just found that I need to shift my perspective in the whole matter of the situation and be fully integrated with it and have it the package deal, because that's what it is, and that's what it's always been, whether I see it that way or not. That's just what it has to be. And whether I want to be the caretaker or not, I realize that if I don't do it, it's probably not going to happen. So I do what I can to make sure that he's taken care of. But it's not just about me doing it, it's just that I know that I have the opportunity to, so I'm going to do what I can. And I feel like people, if they're related or not, they'll want to do something. So it may not end up being the sibling as the caretaker, but more times than not, I think it usually is because of the situational circumstances. And once again, given if they're in the right environment to develop enough of the compassion or understanding that they'll come to terms with what they need to do in their relationship with that person, whether caretaker or not. So
It's just a lot to process in a 6 or 10-year-old mind.
Yeah.
And think about like you as an adult and like living your life, like processing all the little kid things, plus on top of accepting this disability and how your life works
Especially
around
a younger
it.
one with an older one.
So just keep that in mind. I know that's my